Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular Show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 93 of the Print on Demand Cast. As always, I am your host, one of your hosts, Josiah, and with me, again, as always, is Travis Ross. Travis, welcome to episode 93 of the Print on Demand Cast, almost to 107 episodes away from the 100th. Did you ever think when we started this almost 2 years ago that we'd get to episode 93?
You know, I really didn't know. I didn't have any... I didn't really know. I was hoping to. I was hoping to kind of make this part of, my life, for a season or whatever. But I didn't know how many seasons that would be. But apparently, it's at least 4.
Yeah, that's true. And we also didn't know that with those particular seasons, that the delineation would be as arbitrary. But it's 4 seasons. I feel like 4 seasons in 2 years, is that pretty on par with TV shows? I don't know. But anyway, it's good to be here. We are recording this on a Friday morning to be produced, posted, and all of the things by this afternoon at noon. Right. So lots of things have been happening that have led to this kind of schedule shuffle. And trying to, get this out, having to postpone it. We threw something on the Facebook group, which I want to shout out real quick. Caitlin Ashley Lane, I think she's a new member, maybe. But we posted the delay announcement, and she commented, "Good to know. That's why I finally joined the group here on Facebook. Was itching for a new episode." So, Caitlin, thank you for proving our point as to why the Facebook group is useful, because if you're not in the Facebook group, you have no idea why a random episode is dropping on a Friday instead of on the regular Wednesday. And we might discuss moving this to Fridays permanently. We don't know. More on that at a later date. But before we get into it, printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you need to go to join the Facebook group and get all of the pertinent information, so you're not caught off guard or by surprise.
Right.
But before we get into all of the hullabaloo and craziness that has been this past week here at Make Your
Hullabaloo?
Hullabaloo. Yes.
Hullabaloo. You need to Google that.
Hullabaloo, the definition is a commotion or fuss. So all of the hullabaloo this week that has led to postponing everything. But before we get there, we have to go to this week's weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
All right, Travis, it is 2022. And
it is.
If you haven't noticed, everything is centered around pronouns. What's your pronouns?
Yep.
These are your pronouns.
You see it a lot.
You see it a lot. Instagram has a space for pronouns. And much to my dismay, you can't enter whatever you want there. But they have a space for pronouns now. So doing some research and found out that one of everybody's favorite things to eat and snack on has specific pronouns. Did you
really?
know? Yes. That chocolate has preferred pronouns. And do you know what those preferred pronouns are?
No idea.
Her, she. And that's this week's weekly dad joke with a delay trying to click the bumper, but we won't have time to post it at that. So you'll all just see us staring at the thing. So we're going to move on directly into this week's point of interest.
Point of interest.
Beautiful. Beautiful every time. So, Travis, lots of stuff happening. We had Memorial Day weekend, and before that, we had you going to Las Vegas for the licensing expo. So for this week's point of interest, let's get a recap on a couple of things. One, let's start with we'll go in order, start with the Vegas trip to the licensing expo. And then last night, was the first market of the summer. So lots to catch up on that, that we need to do for this segment. So let's start with it. How was Las Vegas? How long has it been since you've been? Was it nice to be back? And how did the expo go?
Vegas is, if you've never been there, it's worth going to see just the craziness and just like, you're just in awe of what man can build. You know, it's crazy. One of the things that I have learned, I've been to Vegas a lot. I used to go to the ASD shows back when I was reselling, and helped with some training and things for some events out there and a lot of different things. The thing about Vegas is when you first get there, you're all excited. And then, not kidding, a day or two later, you're just, oh, I got to get out of here. And I think I figured out why this time. I think I finally figured it out. It is that place just constantly is begging for your attention. Every single sensory overload possibility that exists is happening at all times for 24 hours a day. You can't have any peace. So you got the lights, you got the sounds, everything, the smells,
visual, audio, smell. Your eye. I mean, everything. All of your senses are completely bombarded and stimulated 100% of the time.
And it's exhausting after a while. It really is.
Yeah.
And we always joke about, you go to the airport and you can tell the people that are getting off the plane and coming to Vegas, and you can tell the people that are leaving, because it's a total.
It's a dichotomy.
It's a 180.
It's like, the closest thing you'll ever see to actual time travel, where you're getting off the plane, you're full of piss and vinegar, and you're looking at the people on the seats that are waiting to get on the plane, wondering why they don't seem as excited to be in Vegas. So you go, you spend 3 days, 5 if you're unfortunate, and then by the time you get back to the airport, you are sitting in that seat looking at the guys that are coming off the plane, thinking you have no idea what you're getting into. It's like the scene from Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they're going into the town and the lady runs up to the van and she's like, turn around. don't do it. So that is the running joke and the observation made about Vegas. But so the licensing expo, you and I were chatting a little bit about that offline, yesterday or the day before, something like that. So briefly, just kind of touch on your experience. What did you learn, if anything? Did you see anything cool? Did you find the Pie Gow dealer Chuck? Just hit all the highlights, and then we'll go to the next point.
I did not find the Pie Gow dealer Chuck, who was a reoccurring fixture when Josiah and I had traveled to Vegas. We had found him a couple of our trips and sat at his table, and we'd always say, hey, what, you need to help us win.
Yeah.
And
every time we lose a hand,
next time you're here, we'll help you.
Every time we lose a hand, we'd say, Chuck, you took our money. And he'd say, I didn't take your money. And he'd point to the cameras and go, they took your money. And I said, well, you owe us. And he'd say, next year, next time,
year.
every time. So we were like, all right, Chuck, we'll find you. So that's kind of some context as to why we're randomly mentioning a pie guy named Chuck.
But the licensing expo in and of itself is at the Mandalay Bay. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, licensing shows. And basically, you've got a bunch of people that have properties or brands. Think anything from the band Kiss to the movie Harry Potter. And then you have all of these potential licensees that want to take that property and put it on something. So for our, intents and purposes, it'd be like t-shirts or, maybe we're going to do some laser things. But I mean, everything from lunch boxes to paper goods to car, rides, like it's all licensing. And so it was like drinking from a fire hose. The one thing I found very different than other trade shows I've gone to, when I walk down the aisle at a print shop or a print show, I feel like I'm the king because everybody in the booths wants to sell me something and they want to talk to me and they want to. On this one, it's like they're kind of eyeing you up and down, and those people only want to talk to people that have products that they can like. It's a little bit more. What can you do for me? Than a print show is. It's not because it's not about money. It's not about selling. It's about partnering. And so it was a little bit different from that perspective. I did learn a lot about kind of the process and how it works and some of the terms of, I really wanted to just dip my toe in the water and understand it so I could talk somewhat intelligently about it, since I am in the print game and there may be people that come to us. In fact, we did have a guy on, Michael Restrepo, who he has a license with some sororities and fraternities, and we're printing for him. And so I wanted to understand that a little more. I took my wife. We had a great time. She stayed at the hotel most of the time and just worked. And then we would go out in the evenings. And so it was fun. I didn't get any deals. We did. Ken Reel, who's also been on the show, and we're going to have him back on. He's created a brand, and we're going to bring him on and talk about that brand and what he's planning on doing with it and how that, all kind of works into the print on demand space. He was top 3 in a competition that they had called License This, and he ended up getting second, but I went to his presentation. He gave me a shirt with his brand on it and a hat with his brand on it. There was a couple of us that came out and like handed out booklets to the judges and, as part of the team or whatever. So that was cool, connecting with him. And Yang was there. He was also one of the guys that wore the hat and stuff. But yeah, so good connections. Met up with some other friends that from previous, like the arbitrage and the private label world, had dinner with them. It was a good trip. But yeah, I didn't make any deals. We're not going to start, printing Marvel t-shirts or anything like that.
We're not printing Kiss stuff.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Which is funny that you mentioned Kiss, because Kiss, I think Gene Simmons is notorious for being the guy that's like, whatever you can put it on. Let's talk. They've got coffins to condoms. From conception to death and everything in between. Kiss has a branded version of whatever that is, which is wild. So moving on to the next point. Last night, you and Tate went to the first market of the summer in Erie. Tell us how it went and if it set a good bar for the rest of the year, rest of the summer rather, for markets, or what your thoughts were as far as the inaugural 2022 market of the summer.
Yeah, it was a great weather. There was a couple things that we got there and we're like, oh no, we forgot this and that, because it was the first one.
Sure.
So there's a few things that, a few hiccups that we need to kind of fix, but that's kind of par for the course. I know you're doing one with Tate tomorrow, and I almost want to. We'll turn the tables next week and ask you how yours was, but. For ours, we did bring some new products. We brought some pillows and some signs and We had some new designs on some of our older products. We had some new laser things, and it was very similar to what had happened last year. Honestly, the patch hats did really great. A lot of the laserable products did pretty good. We assemble earrings and bring those as well. Those did really good. We didn't sell really any of our totes or pillows. We had some interest in signs. We did have a QR code that took people to a Google form if they were like a business. And so we got a couple of leads that I think a couple people filled that out that we need to follow up with. So I think we were ready for that portion a little better than we were last year, because last year it was just business cards, hey, contact us or we'll contact you. But this year we had that QR code and things like that. So overall, it was a success. I think, we made a decent amount of money, probably about the same as what we would have made last year. But I think it kind of set the bar for a good season. We're going to be doing Thursday and Saturday farmers markets, and the whole team is going to be kind of rotating in. We've got a schedule. People, so me and Tate don't have to do every single one. We're kind of distributing that workload. So if you have to work on a Saturday, maybe you get to take a day off during the week because you're going to do the market on Saturday. But we're figuring all that out, have a schedule for that. And I think, like I said, it's set a precedent for a good season for the markets. And I'll say one last thing about it. This is a great idea for you if you are in the print on demand game. If you can produce some things, you could probably find a cheap booth at some festival or something like that you could just test some designs. If you have the ability to bring a press, you could potentially do transfers right there on the spot. I think that really, people love the patch hats because we're able to adhere the patch hats with the hat press right there in front of them. It's very cool. They get to walk away with a custom to them item. And I think you can do that with shirts. You can do that with coffee mugs. There's a lot of different things you could do. And we've talked about that in previous episodes, but something to think about this summer as the weather's nice and there's a lot of festivals and things like that in your area. Check it out, look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you and I talked about, or you had talked about also getting some like DTF transfers ordered and letting people make a custom shirt of, here's the designs available. Here's the shirts available, press it. And then you go home with a shirt that you help make. And I do think that interactive element to it is definitely a seller. So, we will next week definitely talk about how tomorrow went and see how things went. The rumor is it's going to be a little bit crazy. I think there's multiple things happening in Louisville tomorrow. So hopefully that makes for good business and for a good time. So with that, we're going to transition into the main event of our show, episode 93's main event, POD 101 part 2, deciding where to sell.
Main event, who's calling?
All right. So last week, Travis, we kind of we kicked off season 4 rather with a series of episodes that are going to kind of be POD 101 and kind of restarting from the beginning, realizing again for those that are new here, we have kind of discovered that it was probably beneficial to start or cover the beginning processes of a print on demand business, because we probably have gained new insight, and also listeners who are wanting to know more about the beginning, because we're 93 episodes in, so we don't want to neglect people who have just joined us that are starting out on the journey as well. And for those that are on the journey, it's always good to have a refresher. So we're talking today about episode 2, deciding where to sell. And it's something that we've covered a couple times, Travis, but it's always good to circle back. So I can't believe I just said circle back. I'm going to go brush my teeth. So in last week's episode, we talked about what's your why, which is always a very good thing to know. We talked about, are you going to open a DBA or an S Corp? Talked about kind of the logistics side of things that you need to know before you even go into the business, things on the back end that are going to provide kind of the structure for your business itself. So anything about last week that you'd want to maybe touch on or kind of highlight or kind of, close the gap on and put a bow on?
I think one of the things that we were actually kind of added to this week that we probably could have touched on last week was just the idea of, kind of what do you want to be? This is not just what's your why, but what are your future plans? What are you building, as you continue to move forward? And so like, for instance, do you want to just be a drop shipper? Do you want to just sell on platforms where, that you can just do royalty-based income? You don't want to touch Etsy because then you're a seller of record. Even if you're drop shipping, it's different. So you have kind of that royalty base, which is Teespring, Merch by Amazon and stuff like that. And we'll get into some of that, but, or maybe you're wanting to, get the biggest possible profit margins that you can. And so you want to bring some of your production in-house. Right. So that's something that I think we could have maybe touched on last week that, I just touched on, but maybe we can touch it more. I don't know, but yeah, so that's kind of the idea there.
Sure.
But I think you recapped it well. And obviously it's last week's episode. So if you didn't hear that, you probably want to start with part 1. Yeah,
for sure. It'll be a good kind of foundation as we go into this next episode here. So we're talking about where to sell. And I think that we have multiple times referenced and exhausted the analogy of a shopping mall. Or like places of commerce that you would think of in a brick and mortar sense or in person. So we're going to try and maybe incorporate that again because it seemed to work out pretty well. But there's always, as always, I should say, a plethora of places where you can sell. Just to quickly list them, there's Amazon, Walmart, Etsy, Shopify, Squarespace, Redbubble, and Merch by Amazon. And keep in mind, there's more. These are only
so
7
many more
that we thought of to incorporate. So, Travis, I mean, we've talked about how you and I have both started in this game. We both started kind of a Amazon with coffee mugs and Merch by Amazon with t-shirts. Kind of a hybrid is where we first landed when we got into the print on demand game.
Yeah, we were doing kind of the royalty based with the Merch by Amazon, which really was doing well. But because we were doing that and we were creating so many designs, it just made sense to take those properties. This is kind of akin to licensing. You have a property, a design, a really cool design for somebody who is a firefighter. And then you take that same property that you have on Merch by Amazon, but then you can expand that property to multiple other products. And that was the idea behind, doing the coffee mugs, particularly because we were able to take all of those designs that we have for Merch by Amazon and then slowly roll them out over, the course of months onto all these coffee mugs. And so then we were in the physical product game, and actually being the seller of record and putting those out, for, in our case, on Amazon. You could also obviously do Etsy, all those other places that you're the seller of record, at eBay, all of those things.
Right.
But yeah, so that was the kind of the start for both of us. Really, it was kind of a mixture of royalty based and seller of record that then morphed into, hundreds of products over time.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's kind of touch on these platforms and then kind of go pros and cons, or, things that you probably feel that the listeners should know, things we've learned about each platform. And we won't necessarily go in order, but let's start with Merch by Amazon. I think Merch by Amazon is a really low barrier of entry as far as cost. You're not going to have to invest in any equipment, but you maybe, if you're not a graphics designer, you're going to have to farm that out. and get the graphic designs done. And of course, there is a barrier of entry as far as waiting lists and getting approved for an account, and the tier system and all of that kind of stuff also is something that comes into play when you're working with Merch by Amazon.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. A lot. So Merch by Amazon would be a royalty based. You're basically licensing your designs to Amazon to put onto T-shirts and pop sockets and all their other crap, that they sell, pillows, and I don't even know however many products they have now, because I don't really focus a lot of my time on that particular platform. But the benefit of that is that they handle all of the production, all of the returns, all of the customer service issues, because it's their product. You're just licensing your art to go on their product, and then you get a royalty based on that. So it really does tie in well with our point of interest. But I think the downside of it, the upside of it is that it's Amazon, and there's so many people coming to these listings and doing searches every single second. There's hundreds of searches happening on Amazon, and you extrapolate that over the course of a year, and your item can get found, because there's so many people. The downside to Merch by Amazon is, like you said, the waiting list to get in. It can take a while to get in and get accepted. And then when you finally get accepted, oh joy, you can do 10 things.
You're tiered at 10.
So you put 10 designs up on all their products, and until you sell at least 10, and there's some algorithm. I think it's still you sell 10, and then you are qualified to move up to the next tier. But when they actually do that tier up, who knows?
You thought our season delineation was arbitrary. Wait till we're on Amazon.
So then you all of a sudden you're up to 25, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was 25. And then I don't know, I think it's 50, then it's 100, then it's 500, then it's 1,000. And really, to make good money, you either have to have an out of this world hit, as far as the design goes, that really shoots to the top of the category or the niche that you're in, or you have to have tier 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, and have just so many products on there that even the ones that only sell once a month, you have enough that sell once a month that you can get a nice income. But I do know people that, they're constantly doing anywhere from, 2,000 to 3,000 a month, all the way up to like 20,000 a month, and above, on Merch by Amazon alone. Now there's people that are like in tier 200,000. That takes a while to obviously get there. And I don't know how far the tiers go up, but it's pretty crazy. And since they've switched it from each design on each product counts as one, to each design can be on multiple products, and that counts as one. It really, really has expanded their catalog and expanded the number of places that your art can be found and the number of potential sales. I don't know how that actually extrapolates into actual sales, but the possibilities are really pretty amazing. Now, they do limit you on every single day, like how many things you can actually upload. But it's like how many products you can actually put these designs on per day. So you may be able to do 50 products. And I don't know if I think they have right around 50 or maybe just a little more. You might be able to do 50 products, but maybe you only have 100 slots. So that means 2 designs can go on all of those products in all of the countries that they sell in. So it keeps morphing. They keep adding products. They keep adding marketplaces. They keep adding infrastructure. They're getting better and better at it. So it is an amazing platform to get on, but it takes a long time to really see significant income, especially now that there are so many people on the platform now, and they have expanded it so massively.
Yeah, when we were getting into it, it was still relatively new. There wasn't a whole lot of that structure. There wasn't a whole lot of products. It was like a regular t-shirt, a premium t-shirt, and then they would add hoodies. And so, like you, I've no idea what they've added up until that point. But Merch by Amazon in the whole context of the mall analogy, we have said is like a kiosk in the mall. It's kind of like the you break, I fix things where you take your phone in the middle of the mall and they fix your phone. It's kind of one of those kiosks. But another one that is, again, kind of royalty based would be like a Redbubble or TeePublic or Teespring or Spreadshirt, or it's all very much similar in the way the Merch by Amazon does things. So again, like we said, there's so many different. The Bonfire is one that I heard of recently as well, where you can go and list your products for sale, and then they produce all very much royalty based as this as well.
Yeah, I think the only downside to those, I mean, there's plenty of upside. I know people that make money on those platforms, but I feel like Merch by Amazon's kind of the king, and the rest of them just get the table scraps. There's just so many fewer eyeballs on those other platforms. They just don't have the power and the reach that Merch by Amazon has. But the plus is that you can just kind of, once you get an account, I don't know, there may be some limits, but it is pretty much just upload. You don't have a tier system. There may be some limits on daily uploads. I don't know, and obviously each of these channels, you're going to have to figure out what their particular terms of service are and how they operate.
Yep.
But the absence of a tier system is attractive.
Sure.
It's definitely a plus compared to Merch by Amazon.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll say too, is as we continue covering these platforms, is that a lot of what might be your deciding factor, or what might make you decide to go one way instead of the other, is the element of organic traffic that is driven to these platforms. The next one we're going to talk about would be like a Shopify and a Squarespace. Right off the bat, the disadvantage of having your own private site or third-party site like that is you don't get organic traffic. You have to drive all of the traffic through Google ads or Facebook ads or Instagram ads or whatever that looks like. You're driving the traffic to those sites for people to see your products. And if you are thinking that you're going to open maybe, let's say, a novelty shirt site that has nothing really specific or niche about it, you just want to open a novelty shirt site on a Squarespace store because you're convinced it's going to work, there's going to be a long runway, a long rampway of you having to invest money to get your site to cut through the noise of every other novelty shirt site that's out there. Then there's tons of them, dozens upon dozens. So if that's something you want to do, the good thing is with a Squarespace or a Shopify is if you wanted to add or offer a diverse variety of things that maybe isn't just limited to apparel. Maybe you want to do shirts, but you also want to have jewelry, or you also want to have handmade stuff that you've made. You can upload whatever you want to Squarespace. There's really no limit, and Shopify, and you can, specify which vendor, if you want someone to do your shirts, but you're fulfilling your jewelry, or you have a book that you want to sell. That's all very possible on Squarespace. But the downside again is there's no eyes on that product unless you go bring eyes to it.
Yeah. I'll say one other kind of plus for the royalty based platforms that we've talked about. One of the benefits is that the listing that is created on that platform is kind of done for you. You literally just drag and drop your art, and then it puts it on all these different products and creates all the listings. You might fill out some bullet points or some descriptions or some tags or keywords or whatever. But for the most part, the actual, like, all the mock-ups are auto-generated for you. And all of that is kind of done for you. So that is another plus that you don't get when you're listing on some of these other platforms, or even like a Shopify or a Squarespace, your own. You have to come up with all of those mock-ups, and you have to make the page look good, and all of that other stuff that you don't necessarily have to do with a royalty-based platform like a Merch by Amazon or a Redbubble or the like.
Yeah. And what I will say too is, if you are, I've worked with enough clients who have Squarespace stores, and they have a following. Or so if you're getting into this and you're doing production yourself, and you're wanting to sell on a platform that's not an Amazon or a Walmart or an Etsy, Squarespace and Shopify are good options to offer people who might come to you and say, hey, I have this following, or hey, I have this thing, and I want to open a web store for it.
Right.
And if you don't have a deco, let's say, where you can just send them a link and let them, go crazy, pushing them to a Squarespace and a Shopify is a viable option for them because they already have demand for what they're doing or a following that's waiting for the thing that they're going to release. And so in those instances, when working with people and opening stores for them and producing their merch, those are viable options if that's what you choose to be when you grow up, is someone in production and not a drop shipper. So there is a space for Squarespace and Shopify. But again, I just want to, because I've talked to a lot of people that I've been both in close relationship with and just on the periphery, that have thought, hey, I'm going to open a Squarespace site. I'm going to throw shirts up there and I'm going to watch the money roll in. And that's very much, it can get there, but it's going to be way more cost intensive as opposed to a platform that gives you the traffic.
You are not going to be sitting on a beach drinking a pina colada anytime soon.
No. Nope.
At least not from the money that comes from that store.
But yeah. And again, the other thing about Squarespace that I'll say, and I'm wanting to put enough caveats out there to so people know that it is a viable option in certain circumstances. But the other thing to think about is there's a monthly cost associated with it as well. Yeah. And so there are monthly costs with like an Amazon professional account, which we'll get to. But with Shopify and Squarespace, you have to make sure that whatever monthly expense you're going to be spending, that whatever you're selling will be able to offset and justify that monthly expense, or at least get there quickly. So that's another thing to keep in mind, because there's different tiered plans and it's going to cost you money every month to just have that thing exist.
Yeah, totally.
So with that, let's hop over to Walmart. Walmart is growing quickly, I would say. As far as when we first got into Walmart, it was very much like, here's the keys to this house, and there's really nothing in it or no structure. And you know what? There's no rules. You just put whatever you want wherever you want. And if we don't like it, maybe we'll tell you about it. So, but Walmart has come quite a long way, because I think that their goal would be to be a competitor with Amazon. Walmart is a viable option. Travis, I know you have had a lot of people reach out to you and be like, hey, tell us a little bit more about Walmart, because that seems like an interesting platform to get into now, while it's not quite at that Amazon level. Nor will it ever be. Who knows? But
yeah, we did a podcast with Barbara Boschen. Maybe you could find that, Josiah. I don't remember what episode it was, that we talked a lot about Walmart. Yeah. But it's a little bit, it's kind of like Merch by Amazon, in that you have to be approved and it takes a little while. And sometimes you have to kind of jump through some hoops to get approved. But once you're in, I would say they have, their infrastructure really has improved a ton since I got on. I think when we interviewed Barbara, it was like a year ago, maybe, or so.
Yeah, it was episode 23, which was released on January 27th. So yeah, episode 23, Barbara Boschen, Walmart.com for POD. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check out that episode, because she had a lot of good info on that platform specifically.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we say in that interview is like Walmart was like Amazon in 2012 or something.
Yeah, Wild West. Just whatever. Yeah,
and it was incredible, like you said, just no structure. Their back end was terrible. They've really improved it a lot. I mean, there's still some quirky things to it. It's a little bit different when you're working with like Excel files to upload your inventory and things like that. There's some things that I feel like they could do better, but that's, neither here nor there. It's, got a ton of eyeballs too. So, and there is no Walmart, Merch by Walmart that's like populating all of the t-shirts.
Right.
So if you do t-shirts, it's potentially a really great opportunity for you to kind of be a standalone, product, that doesn't have a ton of competition. There is a default lag time or handling time that they kind of put on you.
Yeah.
So I will say it's better for producers than it is for drop shippers. You can make it work with drop shipping because the default lag time or handling time is 2 days. You can get it extended to 5 days with their permission, but that's as far out as you can go. So you got to make sure if your drop shipper can get everything out in at least 5 days, or you're going to get into trouble with Walmart. And you need to get that extended past the 2-day default. Unless you're, producing it all in house and you can make sure that you get everything out in 2 days, you can leave it alone. But that's the idea. You need to make sure you can, kind of run with their terms of service and get your products out. It is, like I was saying, you do have to create all of your own mock-ups for these products that you're going to list here. There is no fee right now to sell on Walmart. You just have to get approved. Once you're in the approval process, like I said, there's some hoops you have to jump through. You need to have a store so you can create a quick little, even a WordPress store that just has a few products in it so they can see that. Or you can potentially, if you already have Amazon, you can show them your Amazon store, or, there's some things you can do to get approved. But once you're approved, no monthly fee. And from what I understand, there is no upper limit on how many things you can list or daily limit on how many things you can put on there in a day. We do everything through Excel files, and they're called flat files on Amazon. They're basically just CSVs and Excel files, and we do everything through that. So we do upload a lot. When we upload a lot of products at the same time. And it also makes it easy to edit those products.
Sure.
Walmart and Amazon are a little bit different in that you can use the same, and Amazon, you can use the same spreadsheet to edit things. In Walmart, you got to figure out which spreadsheet you need to do and fill it all out and upload it. It's a little bit more challenging, but overall, they are similar. And I will say that Walmart, of our online platforms, Walmart's definitely number 2 behind Amazon. And it has grown significantly over the time that we've been on it. I also think a lot of people are coming on it. And so there are more, it's getting more saturated. But that's going to be the case with everything online platform. Yeah.
Yep. So moving on to the next, by the way, in the analogy of the mall, which I know you're all wondering, what the hell does that even mean? Walmart is kind of like a store in the mall. It's a JCPenney's, it's a Dillard's. It's, one of those kind of well-known franchises, but it's in the mall itself. So moving on to Etsy. Etsy is a great platform. I know my wife has had a lot of success on that platform, and it would be like a vintage shop store in the mall. Etsy is very much for the creative kind of customized stuff. Home decor works really well on Etsy, and you can use a drop shipper for Etsy. It is possible to do that. If you're going to do custom stuff, you need to make sure that there's an efficient way to get the customized art to whoever is producing it. There's no monthly fee, but there are listing fees for listing. I don't remember off the top of my head how much they charge to like renew the listing or publish a listing.
It's 20 cents per listing published, and that lasts for 4 months. And then if it sells, you get charged that 20 cents again to quote unquote relist it. So even if you say you have 10 in your quantity, every time it sells, you're going to pay another 20 cents. So just factor that into your fees. Recently, their actual fee structure just went up. It was 5%. It went up to 6%.
Yeah, it's 6.5 right now.
6.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Which still, to me, there was a big uproar in the Etsy community about, oh my gosh, they're raising their fees so much. But when you compare it to Amazon or Walmart, which are typically around 15%, it's still really inexpensive.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing I like about Etsy is that it has definitely carved out its own space in as far as a platform. So when you're doing like Walmart, for example, trying to up their e-commerce game, everyone knows Amazon is king. And so when you are setting out to do something in the e-commerce space that is similar to what they're doing as far as a service provider and having stuff available to order, you can either be better than or different than. And if you're going to be better than, you're going to have to really, really run at that, because they have such a head start on you.
Yeah.
Across the board, right?
Yeah, even Walmart hasn't caught up with them yet.
Right. And Walmart has been around longer than Amazon
Yeah.
as a company, but Amazon broke ground in the e-commerce game
Right.
way sooner than anybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
So what Etsy did is, instead of saying, we're going to be better than Amazon, we're going to be different. We're going to offer different things. We're going to go a different direction. And they've carved out their own niche and their own space in the print-on-demand game, in the e-commerce platform game. And so I think that has definitely helped lend to their success as well, because there's not necessarily a one-to-one comparison, where if you start with Amazon and you go into Walmart, and like we did, and you go into Walmart's back and you're like, this is dog water. Like, I don't know what's happening here. This is terrible. But Etsy is different enough that okay, this is gonna be a different experience. And it's gonna be different than Amazon, but they've already told you that. They're not trying to compete with Amazon. They're just trying to be different.
And their back end is very different. It's very user friendly for the one, listing one thing. They don't have a ability to import via a CSV or which to me sucks, but I think that's probably part of their strategy, so they just don't get completely inundated with people like me that just throw
millions of designs.
And so it does keep it a little bit more curated to things that you're if I'm going to put something up manually, I'm going to make sure it's the best of whatever I have, so I think that was kind of by design by them, which I think is smart, because it has, to your point, set them apart from the other platforms that we've been talking about.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's a great place to start, just because the percentages that they take are lower. There's no monthly fee. And if you are doing it yourself and you're designing t-shirts, or maybe you want to do posters, like Printful will fulfill posters, and you're doing some cool poster designs. I know for me, if I'm looking for decor for anything, like an office, or just kind of dreaming about, like, what would a man cave or a poker room in my, when I get that space, what do I want to put in it? Etsy always has really cool artwork and posters and stuff like that. So there's lots of stuff you can offer on Etsy that people will be going to look for, because again, it's that kind of curated, artistic, creative space that people know you go there for those things specifically. So
if you're looking for more information on Etsy, we did interview your wife, Madeline, on episode 68. A great interview. She had some setbacks. She even lost an account on Etsy, and it's kind of, you see, there's a lot of good things to learn from her in that episode about how she did things one way and then lost her account and then finally got another account. And has totally changed the way she's doing things, and she's seeing real success on that platform since she went through that setback. That's episode 68, Pushing Through Setbacks, with Madeline Cifuentes.
Yeah, go check it out. And again, there's lots of good tidbits in there that she gets into. Lots of good advice, some softwares that are available that will help you in that journey. Lots of different things, different rabbit holes that you can go down. So moving on to the king of e-commerce that we have alluded to, that we have talked about in this episode, is Amazon. I feel like there's a lot that we can talk about here, and we're already at 48 minutes in this episode. So, Travis, why don't you kind of like maybe hit some of the highlights, and then maybe if people want to know more, we can do more of a deeper dive specifically on this platform if we haven't already, or let people know where they can find. I feel like we touch on Amazon in almost every episode we talk about BOD, because it's just where everything is for us. That's the ecosystem we're familiar with. So, maybe just hit some of the top pros and cons for Amazon selling on that as a platform.
Sure. I'll say first, we're primarily talking about Amazon USA. There are multiple countries that Amazon is in now. I do not personally, I don't recommend selling in the other Amazon countries.
That's a lot.
All that much. And primarily for me, it's because the postal system in the US is much better adept at getting the package to the end user. When I have sold
saying something.
When I've sold Canada and I've sold in Europe, I've sold in Mexico, we get more returns on average than we do in the US. So I'm specifically speaking about the US. You can try those other places. Actually, just as an aside, the EU, I think there's 6 countries that are all tied together. So if you want to do, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but you can combine all those countries. If you want to do FBA and you want to actually send product to a warehouse, you can send it to one warehouse and they'll fulfill for all those places. It's the same now. They're just rolling out for Canada, US, and Mexico, where you can send product into the Amazon warehouses and they will fulfill in Canada and Mexico from your US stock. I am going to opt out of that for the reasons I mentioned, just because I don't want to get all those returns. And I feel like the US market is big enough for me. But that's the caveat that I'll start with. It's $40 a month per group of countries. So like the North American, that's $40. If you want to sell in Europe, that's another $40 for the Pro plan. And the Pro plan gives you the ability to use those flat files or those Excel spreadsheets that we've been talking about to upload plenty of items to. You do have to, of course, create your own listings. You have to create your own mock-ups, your own descriptions, your own bullet points, all of those things. And then also, so then the other side of that, so you can create a product that is merchant fulfilled.
Yep.
In print on demand, it doesn't exist until it actually sells. You send it to your drop shipper. They send it out. Let's say that thing sells 10 times in a month. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a really great seller. Let's send some FBA. Let's send some of that product to Amazon FBA. So I can send like 36 and then I don't have to worry about that. I can just watch that stock and then send some more, and people will buy Prime FBA way more than they will buy merchant fulfilled. So if you can identify some of those products, we've created some systems where we run reports and we see what's sold and what hasn't sold, and we send in stock according to those levels. And we try to keep some of our best sellers in stock because people will buy those products much, much more when they are Prime and free shipping. Even though even my merchant fulfilled stuff is still free shipping, it's not coming from an Amazon warehouse. And for whatever reason, people love to see that Prime badge on a product. Yeah. So that's the difference between MF, merchant fulfilled, and FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. We do both here. And so I'll have on, say, listing, a listing for that fireman's mug. I'll have an FBM, so fulfilled by merchant listing, and an FBA listing on it. And we might price the FBA one just a little bit less, so people make sure that they buy that one, and that one gets what's called the buy box. And the buy box is just whichever thing goes into your cart when you press that yellow button that says buy it now. And whoever is in that, it could be a merchant fulfilled. There could be 20 people on those Nike shoes that you want to buy, and someone's got the buy box. And it's an algorithm. It's usually a mixture of speed of delivery and price. And so in order to get our stock in and out of Amazon fast, because they will charge you fees if it stays there for longer, storage fees. So in order to get that product in and out, we price our FBA a little bit less than FBM. I know you didn't want me to go on and on about it, but it's
no, you're good,
me, Josiah.
No, you're fine. I was just trying to find episode 6 is titled Selling on Amazon.com. So I think there's going to be some a more deep dive stuff.
I should go listen to that.
Yeah, we should re-listen to it and maybe recap and see what people are thinking. But just to Travis's point, you can kind of see what we're talking about, the buy box. You're really looking at everyone. This is a separate listing from different sellers that you can see. Everyone has different sellers. So if someone hits add to cart here, then T Primi LLC gets the buy box as opposed to Bain Enterprises, which is interesting. I don't know. Bain was selling on Amazon, but the more you know. So yeah, lots of stuff to cover on Amazon. So go check out episode 6. Again, a huge plus when it comes to Amazon is the eyes, which we've talked about, the organic traffic. I think that. Anything else about Amazon there, Travis?
I'll just say it's easily 70% of our online sales for the products that we have listed across all of these different platforms. That's easily 70% of our sales. So Amazon is the big dog. It is totally worth the $40 a month when you can list, all of these different products. And you're going to need a system, and we're going to talk about that system probably next week. So think about Amazon as you are thinking about scaling, thinking about getting bigger. A lot of these print on demand companies, fulfillment companies have integrations with Amazon. So, it sells, it's just like Etsy. It sells and it goes right to the person and then out the door, and you don't have to touch it. You're just responsible, obviously, for customer service. And then if you want to start getting into the FBA game and sending some product there, you can do that. There's a lot of scalability with Amazon, again, because of the eyeballs. It's just an incredible platform to sell on.
Yep. So go check out that episode 6. And again, if you guys want to know more, if you listen to the episode and there's questions you have, you can always let us know if you have any questions. And in the context of the mall analogy, Amazon is the entire mall. So everything that can be found in the individual stores, found in the whole mall. So Amazon is the umbrella in which all of these other things are housed under. So let us know if you have any questions. Again, printondemancast.com/Facebook is where you go to join those types of conversations. Ask Caitlin. That's why she knew this episode was dropping in less than half an hour, which means I got to make this part really quick because we got to chop this thing up and get it uploaded to all the appropriate platforms. So, Travis, anything else before I don't breathe for the next 5 minutes?
No, I want to see it go.
I can't do it all in one breath. Are you kidding? But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 93. Episode 94 will be coming to you next week on Wednesday or Friday. We don't know. We'll let you know. However, we do know the topic because it's going to be in the series of Print on Demand Cast 101, everything you need to know when just starting out. Again, printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you can join the group. printondemandcast.com/Instagram is where you can join or follow the Instagram channel. And printondemandcast.com/YouTube is where you can go and find the video versions of these. But if you don't want to go to YouTube, you can go and listen to us on Spotify because the video is released at the same time as the audio. So it doesn't matter if it's Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Anchor, wherever you get your podcast, the PODcast is there for you. But do us a quick favor and leave a subscription because it helps the algorithms. Share this episode if it's helpful to a friend. Hit the share button. It all helps our information, this show get to the people that need the information just like yourselves. So it is greatly appreciated, and we will shout you out. I don't know how many more times I need to say that, but we will shout you out on the show if you leave us a 5-star review with a little comment about what it is you love about the show, your favorite episode, favorite dad joke. It doesn't matter. We just want to hear from you because we started the show for you guys. So with that being said, we will see you guys next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.